All right, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to another I Get It live session. My name is Timothy Harrison. I'm a content creator and an Autodesk consultant with I Get It with TATA Technologies. Along the way, if you have any questions about this particular topic or you have suggestions for a future topic, feel free to either put a comment in the chat window or you can email me about a future topic, because I'm always interested if there's something that people want to find out about that you haven't seen anywhere else. Maybe we can put this in a future live session for you. So today we're going to look at another new update for Autodesk Inventor 2022, and we're going to be looking at the Fillet command. And now the Fillet command is clearly not a new command. Fillet has been around basically forever in Inventor, but there's been a major change to the workflow and how the Fillet command works with the new property panel framework. Over the last several releases of Inventor, we've seen many of the commands starting to migrate into this property panel framework. And so one of the newest additions to that framework is the Fillet command. Objectives for this session, we're going to look at the change in workflow, how we interact with this property panel, where the options that you may have been used to, where they're at now within the property panel. We'll look at, there's now technically 3 different types of fillets. So before, all the fillet options were within a single dialog box. And maybe you knew that they were all there and maybe you didn't. There was a couple different types of fillets you could create with the command. So we'll see how it's been broken out into 3 different distinct types of fillets. And so you have 3 actual new fillet commands that you can technically use. Basically, does the same things that it did before, but a little more specific when you're going to select which one you're going to do and how that operation works. And we'll look a little bit into how they operate. Most people probably know how the fillet command works, so we won't get too deep into all the options on how to create fillets. But basically, we'll look at how we interact with this new property panel for each one of the different fillet types. And then we'll look at all the different options. So each fillet type has different options within the property panel, and we'll see what those different types of options are. And with that, let's jump right into Autodesk Inventor. So I have just a basic part here we've used for a lot of different things. So just to kind of give you an idea, we'll look at the chamfer command just for real quick. So this is one that's still in the old dialog box. Like you probably have, if you've been using Inventor for some period of time, you're used to seeing the commands had always, historically been in this dialog box. At one point, they went to like a heads-up toolbar. That's kind of sort of gone away. And everything eventually here, I think, is eventually all going to be on the property palette. The browser technically is a property panel now. And so when we start the fillet command, you notice on the modify panel here, we actually have 3 options for fillet. So we have the regular basic fillet, doing, so you can do constant fillets, variable radius fillets, all the basic workhorse of the fillet command is the basic fillet here. Then we also have we have a face fillet and full round fillet. And again, these are options that technically were there all along for the most part, but they specifically broke them out and they have their own icons. And then we'll see how they actually display in the browser as we go, to actually give you an indication in the browser if you're looking at just a basic fillet or a face fillet, full round fillet. So we'll start the fillet command, and here we have our new property palette. These can be moved around. They can be docked just like any other one. So we can dock it in next to the browser. You can dock it over on the right hand side of your screen, or you can pull it out here within the graphics window wherever you want it. So for the basic fillet, we have the property panel, and then we also have, which is a little bit different than some of the other commands that have moved to this framework, we have this additional tool panel on the side here. This tool panel can actually be moved as well. So you can move this to someplace else if you want it someplace else on the screen. This as well can actually be docked within, with the browser, or it can be docked on the right hand side of your screen. Unfortunately, if you notice, this actually covers up some of the navigation tools, so it's just an interesting point to item to point out there. And then if you want it docked back to the actual property panel for this command, you can put it either on the right hand side or left hand side. And this is also something, so you'll notice that it's actually separated now. So if I were to cancel this and restart the command, you notice that wherever you place this tool panel, it remains in that location. If you dock it here, and then it moves around with this whole little window. So that's one little unique thing about the fillet command that I haven't necessarily seen on some of the other commands that have moved to this workflow. So looking at just a constant radius fillet here, some of the options here in this little dialog box, this is actually where you can actually edit the name. So if you wanted a specific name for this feature in your model tree in the browser, you can actually change the name right from this location here, and this will update when you commit this in the browser. We have option for turn the preview on and off, the little eyeball icon here. So if you go across through it, preview is off, and turn it up back on. And then we have our selection sets. So some of this you'll notice there's like a little roll up here. This is just kind of the standard workflow for all these property panels and how this works. So as you have different options in here, this is a rather small panel. If you have other commands, the whole command, for example, is much larger. So you can roll some of these up if you had a lot of stuff. And then there's advanced properties. So these are options that have been with the command all along. But this is where you find some of these additional advanced options. And by default, they're just rolled up in this little advanced properties tab. So we're starting with a constant edge fillet. If I select an edge here in my model, you notice, as we're kind of used to, we had a preview with that preview turned on. Again, if we turned it off, you still get kind of a basic preview, but you don't get that 3D model preview of what the fillet's going to look like. We still have the manipulators actually, on the model, so we can change the radius here. And additionally, within the panel here, for edge 1 that we selected, we can change the value within the panel here as well. Another option here that we have is the type of fillet that we're going to create. So whether it's a tangent fillet, which is kind of your typical basic fillet, G2 smooth, which for this particular case, you won't see a whole lot of difference, but it's the way that your fillet blends between the two surfaces that it's going between. And then the other one, which is rather interesting, is an inverted fillet. So this is actually a rather powerful option to create an inverse fillet, something that where maybe in the past you would have had to do a sweep or something to create this, inverted style instead of the concaved way of creating a fillet. So depending on what your option, what your design requires, this might be something that's interesting. It might save you some time when you need to create this type of feature. So we'll take this back to a tangent. And then there's the remove option here. So this, you can either control select. So if I hit control on my keyboard and select that line, it would deselect it. So now it's the little red arrow here indicates that there's no selection yet. So then if I select on here, you notice that goes to black, that we're selecting one edge. So instead of doing the control delete or control select within the graphics window, we can select this button here, and that will do the same thing by removing that particular edge from this fillet feature. If you have a lot of edges selected, it might make it a little easier to find find the fillet that you're selecting. So then there's a couple of green pluses here. So this particular one here on this constant radius edge set will create another series that you can select within your model. Additionally, on the tool panel, this add constant edge set is actually really the same button. So this green plus here and this green plus with the little icon does the same thing. So kind of two different ways to interact with that if you're going to create multiple fillet radiuses, so you can have a different radius. And these are, currently I have two. If I select something else here, this is an example. So I have three different edges that can have, three different values within this one fillet command and one fillet feature. So that's constant radius. If I clear these, let's clear all of these for a minute. And then we can select variable radius fillet. So you notice I didn't have nothing was selected. So when I select on that, then it changes some of the options here. So I can select an edge, and then we have the variable fillet behavior options show up. So then we can change the start end positions. So let's just say we'll change this end to 10 millimeters. This other end is 5 millimeters. And then you can place additional points along that line segment that or edge segment that we've selected to create additional variables in that fillet. The number here on the left side is sort of a percentage. So going from 0 to 100, this says, so it says 0 to 1. You can kind of look at that as a percentage. So this particular location currently is 0.223. It's like 22.3% along that line. It's not really a dimension, more of a percentage along that line. And you can actually edit this. And actually, I went too high. I should have been 0.3. Sorry. Actually, that was a good mistake. You notice if you do have anything that errors that can't be computed within the fillet command, you do get this indication. So it says it cannot evaluate this particular value because something is currently, because I don't have a value, I just have a period in there. So again, we can change that position. So if you want a more precise location, you can figure out, where you want that percentage distance along that particular line segment or edge segment that you've selected for this variable radius fillet. And again, then you can change these values to, whatever you want them to be for your variable edge fillet. And then so the same situation here, where you can add additional variable fillets within the same fillet command with the green plus here. And then similar to the constant radius, if you wanted to create additional fillet radiuses, you can select it either from this green plus, and again, if you select it off the tool palette, these two commands then are acting as the same type of command. So that's variable edge fillet. And you'll notice in the browser for these, it just shows that the fillet icon similar to the fillet icon that we've selected for our command. So just something to take note as we move along here. Then one last thing, on the tool panel for the fillet command, you'll notice when we're in constant radius, there's options here for selection sets. So right now we're on edge priority. So you're selecting edge within the model, and that's where you're going to create your fillet. You can change this to loop priority. So if you select an edge, and actually I'll back up once, kind of show that, change this to a smaller fillet. So if I were to select this edge, notice we get any of the lines that are connecting tangent to it currently. We change it to edge loop. So you'll notice that on this section, and I'll reselect this back edge to make it a little better idea. So right now, if I select that one edge, there's nothing else tangent to it. So it's only selecting the one edge here. If I change this to loop priority, notice that now this will do a fillet on anything that's touching, any edge that is coincident, not necessarily tangent. So there's different ways to select that. If we select feature priority, this will select the fillet on that full feature. And then if we select solid, this will want to create a fillet on every single edge in your entire model. I found very few cases why you'd ever actually want to use that, but it's an option there depending on what your particular design is. This might be something that you'd want to do. So if this will select, it was giving me all 50 edges of this model to create your edge fillets. And then one other option we'll just look real quick is for setbacks. So I'll select 3 edges here, turn this back down, something a little more manageable. So to set a corner setback, we need to have basically at least 3 edges selected. And then we can select the vertex point. After we select the to add a corner setback, we'll select that point. And then we can select or we can add in values here to change how this corner is actually constructed. So right now you'll see that these edges come to a 90-degree corner, or to a point here. We can change these values. Something that's easier to see. And these can be different values, but so that readjusts the way that corner is constructed, depending on how your design requires that corner to look. So that's just a quick on corner setbacks. And again, you need to have at least 3 edges already selected before you can start doing that edge setback. All right, so that's kind of the basics of the fillet command, just the basic fillet command. I'm going to switch over to this model real quick and go back to our model tab. So we'll select the little down arrow here on the fillet command, and we're going to look at, I think the first one we'll look at for these other 2 options is the full round fillet. So on the back side here, I have a spot here. I want to create a full round between this face and this face. And you notice the property palette here for this particular version of the fillet command is a little bit different. We don't have that tool panel for this. The only options we have here is really we can change the name on this particular feature. We have the preview turn on and off, and then a selection of a side A, a center face, and a side B face. And again, some advanced options. And again, these are the same options again that were available before. Just to if you need to turn on or off any of these advanced features, they're rolled up here under the advanced properties. So we'll select our 3 faces. So we'll select this face as our side A. We'll select the bottom face as our center face, and then we'll select this other side as our face B. And notice we get our preview. So that bottom face is then replaced by a full fillet that goes between this edge and the other edge, or this face and the other face that we selected. Again, if we can turn that preview on and off to see what we're starting with, and then what it's going to be replaced with. Let's select OK. So then we have our full round fillet between those 2 faces. And you'll notice here in the browser, way down at the bottom here, there's a different icon for this. So when we place a full round fillet, it creates a little different icon in the browser to give a little more indication of what type of fillet was created. On legacy data, so if you have models that you have already created a full round fillet or a face fillet, when you bring those in initially, they will still all have the typical fillet icon until you go to edit it. If you edit that feature, it will then update it because it recognizes now that it was coming from the old version of creating a face fillet or a full round fillet. And then we'll update that icon. So it won't make any changes to your model, just give you a little different indication in the browser once you go to edit those fillets in the future. So that's the full round fillet. And then we'll flip around the other side here and we'll look at the last option here is for the face fillet. So the face fillet is actually a pretty powerful tool. Let's say we want to create a fillet between this edge, this face here, this face and the top face on this little flange tab hanging out here. And you'll notice there's a lot of fillets already in this model. There's been a lot of design here to try to go backwards in time and try to like remove fillets and do some stuff here might break the model. So using the face fillet actually will help us with not having to do a lot of editing of the old features. So on the property palette here, notice again there's no tool panel for this one. Again, we have just a selection set for face A and for face B, and then for the size of the fillet. So we'll select this face as our face A, and then we'll select this top face here as our face B. We'll change our value. Let's say we'll change this to, change this to 3. And again, another good accident there. You'll notice, so if we try to create a fillet here that's too large, that can't be computed, we get a little red X up here, basically saying it's giving us a preview error, but also indicating that this is something that can't be computed. So we'll take this back to 3 millimeters. So here's our preview for what that new fillet will be. And this will remove anything that was, any of these other fillets basically kind of get removed. It kind of ignores them and just creates that blend between any of these tangent edges and faces. Create this a little bigger just so we get a little better indication, because I want to show one more thing after we create this. We'll go with 6 millimeter. All right, so there's our face fillet. Notice that it just blended through any of those fillets that were already in there and created this blend between this face and this face. Now that said, we ended up with a little weird edge here. What do we do with that? We could try doing an edge fillet in here, but you'll notice that it doesn't really, it's just a weird spot. It's like, oh, what do I do with that now? I can't like blend that back in. That looks terrible. What am I going to do? We can actually fix that by doing another face fillet. We'll select this face and this face, and then we can enter in a value here. And by doing a face fillet between this face here and the face that was created when we did our previous face fillet, this will now do a blend, and we can actually control that radius size, blend that fillet back in through that entire model to give us a nicer transition between those several surfaces all the way across that part. So by doing two basic face fillets there, we were able to fill in this area in here, maybe give this some more strength in this area without having to do a whole lot of remodeling or trying to tweak all of these. If you notice in the browser, there's all kinds of fillets in this particular model. So that blends that through. And then by doing that second face fillet, we're able to reblend the rest of this to give a nice transition between all of those faces. All right, and so that's the basics of the updates for the Fillet command. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I didn't mention if you're doing a face fillet, or I'm sorry, an edge fillet, or actually really any of these fillets, we can place a fillet here. There was one other additional green plus here that we didn't cover. There's a lot of green pluses, and you kind of have to know which ones are which. But if you hover over any of this stuff, you get these little tool tips that tell you what they are. So this button at the bottom here, if we selected OK, that commits and creates that particular fillet. If we're in the command and we know we want to place another one, we want to create this fillet, but we want to then create another one without restarting the command, we can select apply. That creates the fillet, and then the command is still active. So similar workflow that that's been within Inventor, but just giving an indication of where to find those options. So this green one at the bottom here is apply and create new fillet. So it applies the fillet, creates it, puts it in the browser, and leaves the command open to continue creating more fillets. All right, so that's the basics for the updates for the fillet command for Autodesk Inventor 2022. Just jump back to my PowerPoint slide here real quick. So just another quick update. I'm sure you might be aware, but you might not be. We have lots of Inventor courses on myigetit.com. One of the newer ones that's pretty popular is our model-based definition for Autodesk Inventor. So if you sign up for a subscription for iGetit, that's a newer course that we have for Inventor, and we have lots of Autodesk content. So lots of courses for Autodesk Inventor, lots of hands-on projects, which we're pretty proud about, that you can get in there and actually use the software as we're trying to, as you're learning and training through our program. But lots of offerings for Autodesk training. And if you have any suggestions, so if you have something that you haven't seen before that you're curious about, if there's a topic that we don't currently cover in any of our courseware, but you're curious about, shoot me an email, tim@myigetit.com. I would be happy to hear from you, get a suggestion for a future live session, and maybe we can get that created for you, and we can all learn something new. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for attending, and we'll see you in another live session soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.